thank you, everybody. I appreciate you showing up today. You're invaluable to the mentoring program. Without students, there's no mentoring. So thank you for showing up. Appreciate it. So today we're going to be talking about communication, sales, and persuasion, speaking success principles. And just to give you an idea how we usually do things here, I'm going to be talking about certain things, but I also want to leave the floor open to any questions, any comments, concerns people want to bring up. I don't want to spend this time talking at you. I'd much rather all of us be engaged and kind of talking about how we can do this together. So, we're going to go ahead and move forward, and I'm going to start off with this quote. Let thy speech be better than silence, or be silent. And I practiced this by Dionysius of Halicarnassus.
I was going to wonder how you were going to say that.
Yeah, blood helps being a lit major, too. So, exactly. I mean, that's really what it's about, how to make our speech as powerful as possible. So the types of communication we're going to be discussing real quickly. We're going to have a section on public speaking, a section on body language, and then a section on NLP and persuasion techniques. The third one is going to be a little more complex and in depth on that topic, but you're going to get valuable information that you'll be able to use right away to improve your 30 seconds in PepNet. So the goals of this session are to develop and improve your 30-second presentations, taglines, or elevator speeches, improve speaking communication skills, develop new strategies for getting what you want, and that's what the persuasion side of things comes in, and then also to reveal your hidden communication, sales, and persuasion powers. So I want to take this moment here, moving on to 30-second presentations, and just each of us give a 30-second presentation, and then later we'll be able to come back to those and maybe discuss how we can improve those presentations. So I'll go ahead and kick things off first, and just give them like you would in PepNet like you did today. So my name is Michael Black. I'm with AfroMarketing. I work with entrepreneurs, sales professionals, to cut the fat waste and frustration out of their marketing dollars. A great referral for me today would be anyone you know that's spending on marketing but isn't getting the results they'd like. Thank you. Michael Black, AfroMarketing. And whoever would like to go next.
I'm Dr. Michael Schoonerman from Life Symmetry Chiropractic. I'm a chiropractor. What I deal with is the spine, and I deal with the spine because it affects the nervous system. Great referral for me is somebody that is stressed. Believe it or not, when your nervous system isn't functioning at its best, it can't handle or process the stress as well. Again, Dr. Michael Schoonerman from Life Symmetry Chiropractic, balance body, mind, and soul.
Good. Dropping in there.
John Anderson, Right Course Wealth Management. I do financial planning, life insurance, and health insurance. A great referral for me today would be somebody who has a small business who would like to retain their employees and offer them a retirement plan. A simple IRA retirement plan is a very inexpensive solution for small businesses. That's the referral for me today. John Anderson, Right Course Wealth Management, doing this for the client each time.
Every time.
Every time. Michael Roberts, WJ Bradley Mortgage. I help people own homes and make their dream of owning a home affordable. Mike Roberts, WJ Bradley Mortgage.
Sue O'Leary, Therapeutic Massage. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. It's all right.
Therapeutic Massage. Are we doing like a good referral? What are we doing?
Yeah, just your regular 30-second presentation that you would have done, say, this morning.
Okay. A good referral for me is someone who is having headaches and needs to have some of the stress worked out of the muscles around their neck and shoulders. So
I got something for John in a minute. I'm Sue Bittner with Unique and Persuasion. I do laser engraving. Good referral for me this week would be somebody that still has those fat fingers that could use a nice stylus pen for their telephones. And, of course, everything comes with free laser engraving. I make it unique by making it personal.
It's hard enough to drive without using two hands. I'm Mark with Carpet MD. Your body sheds 9 pounds of skin every year. That's 3/4 of a pound a month. And if you're at home half the time, that's half of that ends up in your carpet. And how many people are in your house? That's all filtering down into your carpet. Need I say more? Call Mark at Carpet MD, your prescription for healthy carpets.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I'm glad you could join us after all, Mimi. Could you go ahead and pass her those 2 items there?
Maybe you're going to get her 30 seconds.
Yeah, we were just doing 30-second presentations so that later we can go back and kind of discuss ways that we can improve our 30-second presentations, essentially. So if you wouldn't mind giving yours real quick for us.
I'm Mimi Gill with Slumber Parties by Mimi. I have relationship insurance, and that is lotions, potions, lingerie, and things that go buzzing tonight. So I do this on the home party plan. I want the good referral for me. It's a woman, who likes to get together with her girlfriends, have fun, and get free products. And I want to remind everyone that even a skilled craftsman does use power tools to accomplish their work. I'm Mimi B. Hill with Slumber Parties by Mimi.
All right, thank you. Okay, now on the next page you'll see, and just to catch you up, Mimi, we're on 3 big questions to ask yourself slide. That's about 5 pages in or so. Now, the key to doing this is as I go forth and we talk about things, I want you to be asking yourself these questions. What was the most effective out of the presentations you saw? What was the least effective? And what aspects of other people's presentations can you incorporate into your own to improve it? So 3 real simple things, but keep that in mind as we go forward and talk about these different things. So we're going to hit up 5 speaking success principles guaranteed to get your point across. So one of the things that we need to understand right off the bat here, and I saw this in the presentations that people were giving, is that people communicate in different ways. There's visual, people that learn by seeing things. There's auditory, people that learn by listening to lectures and hearing things. And then the kinesthetic, people that learn by doing things, touching things, and being a part of things. And so in our communication, glad you could join us, Ron. There's some leftover ones right there. We're on about page 6, I believe.
Okay, speed read.
No worries. Well, it's just that's just a packet of the slides there. So, but what we just did is we gave our 30-second presentations, and then as we move forward, we'll be looking at how to improve our 30-second presentation based on the material I'm sharing. And so the question is, which are you? Because understanding the way that you prefer to communicate can help you communicate better with others. And so a sheet that I passed around there is a worksheet entitled How Do You Communicate? We're not going to fill that out right now, but after the session, if you want, you just go down there and you answer the questions truthfully, total them up at the bottom, and then whatever number of answers you had the most of describes you as an auditory, visual, or kinesthetic. And so when you're communicating with people, you need to understand that different people communicate in different ways. And so in your presentations, you want to look at how can I incorporate auditory elements, visual elements, and touch, kinesthetic elements. So that's something to really keep in mind, and you'll be able to learn more about that on your own after the session. So that's a real positive thing to check out. The second one we're going to cover here is how to engage the entire audience. Now, often when I like to speak, and you'll see me often do this in PepNet, where I'll actually step out into the center areas and make myself more available to people. And typically, if I was giving this session and doing a mentoring session, I would have, say, a PowerPoint screen maybe up at the front for everybody, and I'd actually be walking around the entire time like this, talking with you, getting up close, and working on things. And so when you give your presentations in PepNet, don't be afraid to use that center area. And for those of you that remember when I was doing the educational coordinator, I would often walk around that area. And I think making full use of the space that's available helps make you appear more confident. It helps you communicate better. It adds personality to things because you're not just a rigid person sitting up there talking at people. You're actually going into the audience and working with people. So anytime, and that's also why I often sit at the front of the room, because I've been involved in the meetings a lot, and I want to be able to easily get at that space. So in case any of you ever wonder why I don't go around much, that's why I want to be able to get out in front of people. Words can have power. They can also be powerless. So when you're talking to people, we want to use powerful words, words that tell you, communicate well, and not negative imagery. Audience participation is a big thing. And so all of these are really just different ways that you can look at engaging the audience. Other things that I do when I'm trying to engage the audience, I look at different people specifically, and I choose specific people that are maybe on the far end of the room, so that I have to speak louder to project my voice to them, which helps me guarantee that the people that are closer are actually hearing the things that I have to say. So I think that's a real beneficial thing to be doing as well. So really, your environment plays a big role in being a good public speaker and getting your point across. So paying attention and engaging the audience, I think, is a great thing to be doing. The number 3 way here would be knowing the role of preparation. And Mark Twain once said, "It usually takes me more than 3 weeks to prepare a good impromptu speech." And so really that's, when you think about it, you've got to be putting the preparation time into these things. I know you, Mark, I know you put time into yours because you tell the kind of story involved in your 30-second presentations. And so it really is important to put the time in because that reduces the nervousness factor, and any type of preparation you can do ahead of time is going to make you just that much ready to deal with unexpected things. And so with preparation, for instance, there's 2 types. There's positive and negative. Negative preparation is where you think about every single thing that could possibly go wrong, and then you prepare for it.
Mark's a preacher, he knows that.
I'm sure. So, for instance, that might be like when I don't normally do this, but at times I will bring dual laptops if it's an important seminar I'm giving. So in case one laptop dies, I can switch over. I carry physical and digital copies, so I'm able to go off my laptop right now, but I also have this physical copy that I'm going through here. Another key thing is that when you go into getting ready to speak and you know that you're a nervous speaker, the best thing you can do is recognize the physiological changes that take place in you when that nervousness strikes. So, for instance, you might get increased heart rate. Your breathing changes. Maybe you have nervous tics. So what you do is knowing ahead of time that that's the way you are when you get nervous, then you recognize those symptoms and then mentally calm them. So if you have an increased heart rate when you get nervous, okay, I acknowledge I have an increased heart rate. That's to be expected. I knew this would happen. Focus on slowing your heart rate and moving forward. And so any type of... Hey, Sandy. No worries. So any type of nervousness that you have or that you tend to do, go ahead and acknowledge that and then negatively prepare for that. And then when it happens, you're already set. You expected it. You just roll right with the punches. Another key tool in preparation, and just so you know, Sandy, we're about 7-8 pages in right now, I'd say. And the goal of all of this essentially is to improve our 30-second presentations after I go through discussing the different types of ways you can improve your presentations. I learned this from psychocybernetics. Another great technique to use is the theater of the mind. Your mind is the most powerful tool you have, and so by visualizing, let's say you're nervous about an upcoming presentation. Let's say you're doing the 5-minute technical and you're nervous about that. So what you would do is you would go into your mind, go to a place, relax, and then think and imagine yourself giving that presentation. You imagine the sounds, the smells, you imagine the people around you, you imagine yourself performing at peak productivity, and you just work yourself through this visual exercise, imagining it. And do that for a while. And what that does is it trains your subconscious mind to perform in the way that you want to perform. So if you visualize, and once again we have kinesthetic, visual, and auditory learners, if you visualize yourself succeeding in things, chances are when that, when that event, when that situation arises, you will perform better than if you sat there imagining yourself performing terribly. And so the theater of the mind is one tool you can use, and you can use this in all types of different situations in business, in sales, or in your own personal life. Say you want to improve your fitness. Before you work out, visualize yourself being fit, working out happily, and doing well. I mean, the mind is a very powerful tool.
Just a little thing to play off of that, actually, is when you do start an exercise program, a lot of what they think the first few weeks before you actually start building muscle is the neurological component of it. You can actually do more. Also, they've done studies where you actually think through doing an exercise without actually doing it, and you can actually have strength gains from it.
Yeah, I've actually seen studies about that where they had athletes actually work out and they had athletes watch a TV of people working out or something like that. I can't remember. It was a study that I heard in psychology class. But essentially people, by going through the motions while watching TV, gained muscle in many similar ways that people from actually working out. So I know I didn't probably put that the best, but there is studies out there that do attest to that. So that's good to hear.
So we don't have to work out it. We can
Yeah,
just leisure life.
yeah, exactly. No worries, exactly.
You just brain train and tell your brain that that's what you want it to be doing.
Well, there's a psychologist, sports psychologist in town that they took 3 sets of. They took a basketball team and split it into 3. One practiced 100 free throws a day for a week, and then another one visualized himself practicing free throws, and the third group did nothing, and the first group improved by a couple of shots. And or they had an increase. The group that just visualized it did almost as well after 1 week, and the group that did nothing showed no improvement. So it is important.
Well, I just say it over and over again. As entrepreneurs, your most valuable asset is definitely your brain. So put it to work. Moving on to number 4, building rock-solid, unshakable confidence. And this is something that I promised to you in the email I sent about a week ago. And so self-image is such a huge thing. And I know one of the biggest changes in my income and my life came from deciding to make a conscious decision to build my self-image. And self-image is essentially what you think other people think about you. It's really that simple. And so if you want to nurture a healthy self-image, and a lot of this information comes from Dr. Maxwell Maltz, Psychocybernetics. If you haven't read that book, you should really go buy it. It's life-changing. I know it changed my life, and I've read it every single year for about 10 years since I read it the first time.
M-A-L-T-Z.
Yep, M-A-L-T-Z, Psychocybernetics. That's Greek for helmsman, meaning your mind is your helmsman. And so ways you can build that self-image, because a strong self-image will help you overcome just about any obstacle. And when it comes to speaking, if you have a strong and healthy self-image, then you won't have much of a problem getting up in front of people and talking to them. So what we want to do here is to build that self-image. You can help overcome challenges. Personally, I embrace my role as a creator. I mean, we create different things all the time in our lives, be it educational or technical moments, be it mentoring sessions, be it creative plans for increasing your client's wealth. I mean, we're all creators. You making your pens and engraving and things of that nature. I mean, it's what we do. And so embracing that role is powerful. And remember that your subconscious mind isn't just going to sit there. If you don't feed your subconscious mind positive imagery and positive things, it's going to be absorbing it from what's going on around you. So you really want to plant that seed and nourish it in your self-image. Ultimately, failure is imaginary, and I do everything I can to control my self-talk. So before I might go up to speak, before I came into this room, on the way up here, I've got, I didn't staple the presentations, and I've got these little things going on in my mind, but ultimately I'm like, it doesn't matter. They're not going to care if I staple the presentation. It's not about any of that. And so you've really got to control your self-talk. And once again, theater of the mind is great for that as well. Moving on to number 5, and I don't need to go into these specifically, but I would just say that there are a wide variety of tools that you can use. PowerPoint, I love using PowerPoint, although you can't just read off a PowerPoint slide. Don't do that. So that's a big no-no. Testimonial videos, visual aids. Now remember, when you're dealing with different types of communicators, you want to communicate in different ways. I never forgot when Julie from Wellness, she did her presentation. She bought in 1 pound of fat, fake little fat glob, and handed it around to everybody so everybody could feel the fat. And I thought that was really powerful, because then that's got them imagining, do I got some of that around me? And so, that's a good way to include kinesthetics. Props and all those things, scripts. Hollywood uses scripts. If they didn't work, they wouldn't use them. So, and then, whether or not, depending on the quality of movies you think coming out of Hollywood, but I'm just saying that's, they wouldn't use them if they didn't work. So, moving on.
Business cards that big.
Yeah, exactly. So, those were some real quick success principles. And a lot of this, I just want to get it out of the way so that you kind of have some ideas and we can get into the nitty-gritty of actually changing our presentations. So in body language, the key thing I want you to come away with today is the communication theory from Albert Mehrabian. This dates back to 71, communication theory. There are some people that agree or disagree with it. We don't really need to get into the specifics of it. All we need to know for us is that 7% of communication is what you say, 38% is tonality, 55% is body language. So if you're not paying attention to your body language and the use of your tone, your voice, then you're likely, and see, I was able to get you to look at me by changing the tone of my voice, you're not communicating at full percent. And so what you really need is 100% congruence between what you say, how you say it, and your body language. So if I go and tell someone, I love you, that's not going to work very well. So you got to understand the differences between those and make them cooperate together. On top of that, there's open and closed body language. So if you're sitting in PepNet, say, doing one of these things, off in the corner, that's some very closed body language. And so people are going to be turned off by that. They're not going to be as receptive to your message. So you want to remember, open body language is friendly, whereas closed body language cuts you off. So anytime, and then there's also powerful body language and things of that nature that you can use. And that's what our next slide is about, is how can you improve your visual image. One powerful thing to do is to stand with your hands on your hips like that. It's a very powerful position. Another thing I like to do is I like to have my heart pointed at people when I talk to them. And believe it or not, there's a lot of science that talks about how, for instance, if you're staring at someone on the road and they all of a sudden look at you, you actually do send out, I'm not sure the exact term, but when you're actually looking at someone, you do project energy at them. And that's why if you've been staring at somebody on the road and all of a sudden they look over at you, it's because they can feel that. And so it's just something to consider. And I know some of this is getting into theory and some more kind of frilly stuff, but I can assure you the things that I'm talking to you about are backed by studies and science. So, maintaining strong body image is important. Your voice, that's your best tool in this, and you've got to understand that you've got breathing and articulation, downward inflections. Pauses are very powerful. If you, instead of saying ums, ahs, if you just stop talking, gather your thoughts, and then speak again, that will be much more powerful than saying and then saying whatever it is you're going to say. So I do everything I can to try and eliminate any types of words like that out of my vocabulary. And ultimately, if you're passionate about what you're talking about and you're giving off good energy, you'll give a good presentation. And that's really what it's about. Do you care about what you're talking about? And if you do, your audience will get that, I think. And then the last slide here we have on body language is how to read body language. And the one thing that I've found, and all of us need to be aware of this as salespeople, that people never say what they mean. For instance, you may ask someone to go out on a date. You might say, hey, Jane, I would like to take you out for a picnic. And she says, well, no. Why does she say no? Well, what she's thinking, and you don't know maybe, is that maybe she hates picnics. She went out on a picnic once with her father and got bit by ants and did not enjoy it one bit, doesn't like to hike, gets sticky, but she likes you as a person, but she doesn't want to go out on the picnic. And so saying that, what does that tell us then? It tells us that people communicate in different ways about how they think about things, and you may not always get the right answer the first time. So you have to kind of rephrase things or work at it. And really get under what is the underlying objections to that. Because, an objection is not a rejection, it's simply a request for more information. They don't have enough information to make a buying decision. Baseline behaviors. Everyone has a baseline behavior. So if you're around someone long enough, and often us as PepNet members, we see each other so often, you can get a feel for people's baseline behaviors and tell, wait a minute, something's up with them. Or that person is not receptive to what I'm saying. And so I think that active listening is a big part of that. Few people really listen to what's going on around them and instead wait for their chance to talk. And you're missing out on the most valuable information about what's going on inside of that person. So I think that's real important. Mirroring is another technique I've used before, where you mirror the physical or emotional state of somebody. So physical might be someone likes to talk real fast. You might increase your cadence to match theirs. Or if someone's really expressing frustration about something, oh yeah, I understand that. I get that. That type of agreement. And since people never do say what they mean, a Socratic sales method, meaning asking questions, probing questions, purposeful questions, active listening, all working together to kind of communicate with them about specifically what is most important. Because that's really what we want to get to, ultimately. And so our last section here that we're going to touch on, which is neuro-linguistic programming and power persuasion. And so, people don't want to be sold. They want to buy. We want to keep the power in conversation and communication. We want to keep the power with them, if at all possible, because that then makes them feel comfortable. They're open and more receptive to the things that you have to say, where if you're in a selling situation where you control all the variables, people are going to feel controlled, essentially. So that's something to consider as well. Alliteration. You can communicate sales ideas and things that way. Like, for instance, that's the title right there, Sales Strategies and Power Persuasion. That the PP, the SS, tying those different things together creates, people like to hear that way. I guess it's kind of like a joke, a play on words, if you will. But if you name services, or for instance this presentation, communication, sales and persuasion, speaking success principles, S's, P's, that type of thing. And ultimately, when you're communicating with people, I like to think of it as sales as the metaphor of conception. If you're trying to have a baby here, you don't just go up to somebody and say, hey, you want to marry me? There's a process involved in all of that. So sales and communication is the exact same way. And if you don't go through that process step by step, you can lose people. And so you don't want to lose people at all. Another powerful way, narrative form. If you drop into the narrative form, which is talking about you from you. So that's like saying, I remember this time where I was going out to a client's shop, and when I got there, and see that narrative form where it's a story and it's about me coming from me, very powerful stuff there. So if you're having trouble communicating or someone getting your point across, you can drop into the narrative form. And people love that. They do. Transformation mechanisms are a big deal. And a lot of this stuff, I'm not covering every single thing on these slides. The most important stuff I'm touching on. And then, of course, if you have questions about other things, I'll be here after the session to discuss any other questions about issues that I might not have covered. But transformation mechanisms, we'll give this a shot. I fail at this almost every time, but let's try. Sue, could you pick a number 1 to 4?
Okay.
It's 3. Did I get it? Yay! I get that wrong half the time, but what I did was scotoma. I told you pick a number, and I said the number 1, the number 2, the number 4. I didn't say pick a number 1 through 4. So what your brain did was fill in the 3. And so how you can use that in your one-on-ones and things, you do that, and then when they answer 3, you'll be like, yeah, that's correct. You know what? You have an extraordinary mind. We think a lot alike. I think you and I should do a one-on-one. I'd like to know more about you. Isn't that a lot more powerful than just saying we should do a one-on-one? And then, of course, if I'd have got it wrong, then what I would have said is, wow, you have an extraordinary mind. Do you know that 90% of people will answer that with the number 3? And then you explain the trick to them. Now they've got a trick that they can go forward and use for themselves. It's a win-win.
How did you work that again? Pick a number between...
Pick a number 1,
1,
2, 4.
1, 2, 4.
I said pick a number, the number 1, the number 2, the number 4. I didn't say pick a number 1 through 4. Now, also, you might occasionally get the answer 4 on that, and that has to do with the primacy and recency effect, where the most recent number... Yep.
That was the first thing I thought. And I thought, well, no, I want 3.
See, there you go. And so there's all kinds of different ways, and I'd be happy to talk more about transformation mechanisms. I have at least one more with me today. Another great thing that any of you can do, real quick hint, there's these little tricks where it's a penny in a box, and the box has a magnet in it, and the penny is a fake penny that has a dime that you can insert inside of it. So you put the penny over a real dime, and you put that on someone's finger. They don't know, of course, they think it's a penny. Then you touch that box to the penny, it reveals a dime. Magic, because the box has got a magnet in it, the fake penny is magnetized off of it. How can you use that? Cut out the magnet, take 2 of your business cards, glue the magnet inside of your 2 business cards, put the penny on their finger, and talk about how you turn pennies into dimes through saving them money, through wealth investments, through saving money on mortgages, through relation. Yeah, well, that one's a little harder, but I could think of it given some time. So that's something to really consider in using different transformation mechanisms. A book by Joel Bauer entitled How to Persuade People Who Don't Want to Be Persuaded is a book about transformation mechanisms, and there's about 15 of them in there. So real good stuff to try and use. Now this part is something I want to talk about is power phrases, because the way you say things is very powerful. So for instance, asking permission is a big deal. Asking permission to call people by their right name. For instance, me, I don't care. I've had people across my life call me Mike, Michael, and by my last name, pure black, just black. And so I don't care about that stuff, but other people do. And so asking permission, or when I call someone and I'm following up on a referral, is this a good time to talk for 5 minutes? No? Okay, I'll be happy to call back another time. Thank you. Get people's permission to do things and to call them by their name, or to come into their house. For instance, I was over at Lana's for a one-on-one, and I noticed that she didn't have her shoes on and that her carpet was very clean. And so I said, is it all right if I wear my shoes, or should I go ahead and take them off? Oh, please take off your shoes. And I'm fine with that. And that's just a level of respect and also being aware of your surroundings. I noticed the carpet, I noticed her house, and thought I should take off my shoes. And I could tell she really appreciated that. So, consider it done. Very powerful phraseology. Someone asks you to do something, consider it done. Very powerful. Exactly. Give kudos when it's unexpected. Expected kudos doesn't get you very far, but if someone is not expecting you to thank them and you randomly thank them for something, that really gives them a warm feeling. Tell me what's going on with X. You can use this in finances. Tell me what's going on with your finances. Tell me what's going on with your home carpet. Tell me what's going on with your relationship. It just opens people up to be able to talk to you, and it puts you in the position of a listener. And of course, they feel that you're validating their opinions because you asked them to tell you about it, and you're listening. So that's very powerful as well. Do you gather what I'm saying? That's a great way to pull people along with you in a conversation if you're concerned that you might be losing them. And if you are, then they'll tell you, "Oh, I didn't quite get that. Oh, okay, well let me walk that back." And remember, it's a process, the metaphor of conception. So you want to make sure that you're bringing people through each phase of that process. And this last one here is just a freebie. For those of you, I would just say this. Go home and tell your significant other, "I love, absolutely adore you, Andrea." And that's my girlfriend. Tell your significant other that. Make them melt. I'm just saying. Seriously, no one uses the words love and adore. And I know we all tell our loved ones, "I love you, honey," all of that, but just try it. Go home and tell them that and see the reaction you get. And that's what I'm talking about here is the power of words and using them, giving them power, not making them powerless. Because I love you. Yeah, I love you too. I love, absolutely adore you. It is different. And also, what's that?
Yeah. What's my cat going to do?
Do the thing from Anchorman, Steve Carell. I love lamp. You really love lamp, or are you just looking at the lamp and saying you love it?
Yeah, exactly. That's funny.
I love you back.
So remember your power of your phrases and keep those in mind. And then NLP, this one I won't get into as much, but essentially it's the science of how language and your brain interact. And so you can train your brain to anchor certain emotions and feelings through physical or mental ways. It's a shame that Mark Penshoff isn't here because I really think that him having us say the heart part is really important to what they're doing because the heart is so much a part of their business and their mantra, and it brings feelings with it when you say it. And then if you think about it, he's got us all trained to say it, in PepNet every day, and so we're getting that warm feeling from it related to his business. So that's a real great thing to do too. We mentioned mirroring. That one specifically comes from NLP, although you can use it in Persuasion. And then nested loops. A great way to communicate a story, and stories are great ways to sell. If you can, go find The Seemingly Never-Ending Story. It's a Simpsons episode, and it illustrates this point exactly. And what we're talking about here is a story within a story. So you open up with a story, then you go into a different story, then you close out this story, and then you close out the story that you began with. And you can think of them like those Russian nested dolls with each doll inside of another. And so it's a very powerful way to get your point across and to tell a story. It's very common in Pulp Fiction. Good point. Love that movie too. Great way. And that one actually comes from the storytelling tradition of that actually comes from Native American oral tradition. And I know that from my years ago as an English lit major. But there's different ways that different cultures across the world tell their stories. And the most powerful ones are fragmented or nested loops in the way that Pulp Fiction is. And I can assure you that's very intentional. So that's nested loops. Now I know I've covered quite a bit here pretty fast, but I wanted to make sure that we had enough time here for everybody to kind of get a chance to go over things. And I don't know if you noticed things about other people's presentations, but what I noticed, for instance, going through was that Shuneman, Michael, you had great body language. I saw the way you're using your hands. You're very open and relaxed and things of that nature. Also, Mark, you do the story selling side of things. Almost every day he's going through a story that leads everybody along to the conclusion that you just want to clean their carpets. And so I didn't get a chance to kind of write down everybody's, but I think that there are different things that I've brought up that can be incorporated into things. For me, my first presentation, I was deliberately non-specific. I just said any entrepreneur that's doing marketing but not happy. But if you remember today, what I said was I asked for a salon, a beauty salon. Now, when you think about that, with our PepNet group made up half women, I'm going to get a couple referrals out of that, and I did today. And so, thinking about specificity and how can you use the group to its fullmost for you. Same thing with Harry the other day when he was asking for people that had optometrists. He just wants your optometrist's physical address and name. Why? Well, he could look around the room and see that there's 8 or 9 people in the room wearing glasses. So chances are he's going to get a referral out of that. Same thing with Andrea DeLuca asking for the person to the left or right. Other people have said, give me a referral of the first person in your phone under the letter M. These are all very specific and different ways that you can get the most out of your 30 seconds. And so that's what I wanted to bring at first, and then if people had questions or wanted to discuss or work on improving your own presentations, that's what I'd like to devote the rest of this to. And we have about 15 minutes, so.
Mark, how do you get your ideas for your 30-second weekly basis?
Well, sometimes just from the newspaper that I read in the morning before that, if something seems funny or stands out, then more than likely somebody's heard it on the news. If people can relate to something, then it's easier for them to visualize what you're talking about. Because the whole point of communication is to put your words into their head.
Yeah.
Well, like last week when he had us 9 ounces of
9 pounds.
Or 9 pounds, okay. See, and I got that one wrong, but 9 pounds of stuff. And he wasn't even there, and everybody goes, oh, only Mark would think of something like that at a breakfast meeting, and he's not even here to, make us think about it.
Yeah, but, honestly, it's, for my business, everybody knows what it is, and they only have carpets cleaned when they need it, or they have company coming, or their dog died, or something like that. And so for me to say, give me your neighbor next door, it's not going to happen, because they're not going to get it cleaned until they want or need it cleaned. But if I can make you remember, then you'll pop a referral my way when somebody says, hey, do you know anybody? That type of thing. So that's more than your question, but it's just trying to get people to remember something about the business that I do. Just tie it into something.
That's a lot of what I do in marketing is, 2 things about that. One, I love the visual. Once again, he brought the visual in, having you imagine this disgusting carpet mess really seats that message with them. But also, current events. Anytime, like a lot of the marketing I like to do will be tied to current events, things that are in the media, movies that are out at that time. For instance, the Academy Awards, they just did a big Bond presentation for 50 years of Bond. I happen to know that you can go on a resource called Fiverr, Fiverr.com, and there's a gentleman on there for $5 that will give you a killer Sean Connery impression for 30 seconds of anything you want. So how do you tie that into your marketing? Well, you have him do some type of marketing message about your business, tie it into around the same time as the Academy Awards. What does that do? It puts you into the conversation that's already occurring inside of their head. And that's what we're really talking about, that. You don't want to get someone, when you're communicating with them, you don't want them to stop what you're thinking about and only think about what I'm thinking about. You want to ease your way into that conversation.
I tried it where I did 2 or 3 points, and then people get lost in that. If you just make one point in the 30 seconds, it's better. But it can't be something, it could be controversial, but not to where they won't like it. Like
Could be
gay marriage is in there. I don't want to bring that up today.
Yeah.
Or pot, marijuana problems with dispensaries. It's funny, but it doesn't really fit. And there wasn't anything today, in the paper that was worthy of mentioning. So, that's, in a nutshell, that's what I do.
And I think it's excellent. I think you've got a killer 30-second presentation, honestly. It makes people laugh, and that's, people want to have fun, so making them laugh, I think, is a real important part of it, too.
I think, importantly, I look forward to your 30-second because I know it's going to be something different and I can learn something from it. And so I listen to you. If we just say the same thing every time, we may get into where people aren't listening to us anymore. They know exactly, we're very predictable, we know exactly what this person's going to say, so I'm not going to listen to them. It's not something I do intentionally, but I know that when Mark speaks, I know he's going to tell me something different, so I'm going to listen. And so I think that's powerful.
It's like a commercial on TV. After a while, you already know what the kid's going to say.
And you own it. It's yours. And if anybody else tries to mimic it, and there has been people in the past that have done that, it makes me mad. I'm like, where? People are taking Mark's stuff.
Yeah, I don't want that either.
But it's because even though you're doing something different every week, it's still the same thing, so you still own it. So it's it's your trademark or your brand.
Well, to get it off of me, I want to throw it on you. It's like today you walked out and you shook hands. And then you did your presentation. I threw you a curveball anyway to shorten it up, to abbreviate it. But you went ahead, you hit all your points, and then you ended with the same thing. So you opened and closed your presentation, with that's the most simple form of marketing, really. Of business is the handshake, the eye contact, the personal touch. So I like that.
Thank you.
So do you think that people that sit in the booths there, typically, I think those people typically walk in the middle. And do you think their 30 seconds are more powerful than the rest of ours that just stand up at our seat? What's the opinion?
Well, I would say, at least for me, it comes to your body language. Are you comfortable out there? Because if you walk out there and you don't look like you're comfortable out there, I think that would be negative. Definitely.
Yeah, because when people just kneel behind the chair, like they're in a row.
Like Scott did today.
Yeah, then it's almost like it seems like they don't count, just in body language. The other person didn't even let them out. They didn't try to get out. They're just doing their thing. Even though I like Scott, it's the same kind of thing. It's hard to get out sometimes.
And I think it comes to if you give off your presentation as if you don't care about your presentation, like kneeling on the chair, then the people that are in the room aren't going to care about your presentation either. And so, if you just kind of do it nonchalantly, then it's not as effective as if you are doing what Mr. Black does and gets up in the middle of the room, or Mimi does, or whatever.
I think it's a matter of self-confidence, too. If you have a lot of self-confidence, you don't even think about being in the middle of the room, you just do it.
Right.
And if you're not, you feel better standing behind the table.
Yeah.
And everybody can't, at that meeting, get to the center of the room.
Well, that's
it's
the
impossible.
30 seconds. I mean,
Yeah.
it only takes like 5 or 6 seconds to get over there, but that's...
So,
And then
an
Harry-
idea, so my business partners are part of a BNI, and their thing is what they do, and when it's their turn, they take a few people at a time and they bring them to the center of the room, and then they give their 30-second, and then they walk around, right? And so everybody rotates so that everybody does their 30-second in the same location. I don't think it's critical that we would do that, I don't particularly like it, but I'm just throwing it out there as an idea. Do you think that's a way to improve all of our 30 seconds, is to standardize?
I don't,
Okay, fair enough.
personally.
Fair
I
enough.
think you'd be so, personally, I'd be like, so worried about where I need to be.
Exactly. And
It's
that's what
not
takes away from it, is people are worried about, and they're not really listening.
Right, and it's hard to get around. It's hard to move in that room
It
because
is.
they cram the tables up.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like crammed in today, back at the front there. So
I agree.
That
Just
room,
throwing it up.
I don't think it's conducive for that.
Fair enough. I'm just thinking of ways that we can all improve our 30 seconds. And if it's sitting somewhere different, maybe one week I sit in the booth and I come out in the middle. And then you remember that. And then the next week I don't, because I want to give other people a chance to do that. I don't know.
See, Michael, when he gets out, he is commanding. He gets out, he looks around, he gives eye contact, has the open body language, and then he knows exactly what he's going to say, and he's good at it.
See, I think that with Mike, and this, with the experience I've had doing a lot of sales just over the phone where you don't get to see the person you're talking to, is even if I didn't see Mike, a lot of it comes down to the inflection of his voice, and he projects, confidence when he talks. So if I wasn't even in the room and I heard him talk, I'd probably be listening to him just because I can hear it in his voice. So I think a lot of it comes in on that end of things. And then with him saying that, getting up and moving around and doing things like that, that came into play doing sales over the phone also, is that there was a saying we used to say is motion creates emotion. So if you're up moving around, your brain is actually working, and you can come up with things a little better when you're actually moving around.
See, another thing, we're talking about polished presentations. I mean, he does a good job. Every word's right there. I never do it that way. I'm never good, and I know I'm not. So I don't even. I cater to people wanting to listen to the different. I mess up. I might stutter, but it's purposeful.
Yeah, it's more impromptu.
Yeah, and it's because, and then people feel it's more personable too. In the home, I do the same thing because I just can't be as polished as Mike. It's not my style. It's not. So I don't even.
People
I don't.
can be that polished.
No. What I'm saying is, I mean,
good
a
at
lot of you guys, it's beautiful presentations that you do. To me, it's encouraging every time I see it. But I can't be what John is, or how good Mimi does, and gets everybody laughing, saying the same thing every time. But I mean, it's great. It's good stuff. But you got to use your style, which you said.
Yeah, and I agree. And certainly I think that's very powerful what Mimi does. But also I think Mimi uses some personal branding there too, because I see you very often in the red and the cow kind of, the white and black coat, and some of that other stuff, which I think is great also.
She's fun to follow.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's what you got to do, make things fun. Also, real quick, something you mentioned, Michael, that I want to touch on is when you deliver price, lower your voice inflection.
When you deliver what?
Price. When you tell someone what the price of your product is, lower your voice inflection. Draw them in. It helps give... when people are leaning into you, that means that they're into what you're saying. That's positive body language. So when you deliver price, lower the inflection. And there was something else I wanted to mention related to that. It'll come back to me. So, what do you think about Bruce, what Bruce has been up to? I thought Bruce did some really interesting things today.
I think it's great.
That was good.
That was great.
He gave a short demo.
Yeah.
But
Oh, right.
It'll stick
Physical.
in our mind because he
And he did
demonstrated
it
it.
in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And he did it in 30 seconds.
It's amazing.
I thought that honestly was one of the best presentations, 30-second presentations that Bruce has ever done, quite frankly.
It was, yeah.
Well, because he
I haven't
taught
been
us
there that long,
something.
but that was like the first time I've seen him really, get out there and do that.
Yeah, it's the most animated I've seen him.
Yeah, I think he's really... yeah, no doubt. Well, it's funny because he started doing that when he was at our personal branding session that I held, and he started deciding that he wanted to kind of change his presentation and his look, and now, because he started off with the ponytail thing was the first thing he did, but now he's got the big bad bodacious Bruce and that whole sitting down in front of everybody. I think that was a very comfortable body language, just very confident up there, and I think that is definitely the best one he's given.
An idea for Sue and Michael. When you were talking today, Sue, and you were talking about body parts, whenever you said it, I was automatically thinking of meat, right? I was thinking, oh, my lower back, oh, my shoulder. So when you guys give your presentation, if you could talk about, this I don't know what this muscle's called, this muscle right here, when that's not joint, that means this is, if you do that, automatically I'm going to relate it to me, and I'm going to remember exactly what you said. So that's very powerful that you do that.
Yeah, and if you stumble, just like you said, stop for just a second and keep going. Everybody does it occasionally. They go blank for just a second. Just pause and just keep going.
And Sandy, I think if you brought like just another sample of oil, that one day you brought a case of oil and you put it in the middle, right? I remember that. So it makes you memorable. Sue, I think something similar where you pass that pen case around, or we saw the engraving. I think that's all good stuff to make everybody's presentations a little better.
Should start bringing a little toy.
It'd be memorable.
You've done that before.
I have one with me all the time.
Why don't you bring
They're very innocent. And I was always concerned that Jerry would go gas.
Well, you know,
bring a toy and I'll bring the other.
We're all adults, right?
yeah.
You don't have to even say. You don't even have to say what it is. Just turn it on and just pass it while you do your thing. And,
You don't want to pass those
you don't have to even say what it is. They're gonna-
You'll have the attention, that's for sure.
We're selling paperweights.
God. Yeah. Well, let's see, who else? I remember your presentation, the first presentation you ever did, and now we're getting kind of into 5 minutes, but your first presentation you ever did for the group was highly visual, and that was where you visualized... Well, that was the second, which I think was even better than the first, honestly. But it's that you had us visualize the home that they would like to buy, and you walked them visually and mentally through the home. And so what you're doing right there is you're nailing visual and auditory communicators with that. Nailing it. If you start incorporating, imagine the feel of the carpet as you walk over it. Now you're starting to incorporate kinesthetic. And so that's really where it's at, is how can you deliver those different types? Because that's what gets your point across, really.
Because the upsell is always, you're just dropping something into their head. You know, like if I'm in there to clean carpets and I'll see a ripple, I'll say, "Oh yeah, you got a ripple there," and then you don't mention it, but it's in that lady's head because she's visually discarded it a long time ago, not thinking she could do anything. And then a few minutes later, you know, I stretch carpet. You know, and then you don't say anything, and usually at the end, she'll say, "Now, how much would it be to stretch that carpet too?" Okay, I could do that. So, but you're just dropping stuff. You know, just dropping little things that you want thrown out, and that's what the 30 seconds is. You're dropping. Tom dropped skin last week. You know, skin flakes, and then he probably said, "I don't need to say anything else," or whatever his term was, and everybody knows. You know, I don't want that on my carpet.
We all know that happens.
It happens to everybody. Nothing unusual. But I mean, that's what I figured the 30 seconds is. It's a time to just drop a piece of information that you want to stick in your sales force's head, like you always said. This is our sales force. You know, and so if they can remember something about what you said, you got it. I mean, it's stuck.
I get called the buzz lady. That works. Lady, she met me a few weeks before, and then she came up to me and she goes, "I can't remember your name," she goes, "but I know you're the buzz lady." It's close enough.
That's funny. For those of us that are in face-to-face sales situation with a couple, and it's time to sign that contract, another tip that I'll throw out there. Well, I'm just wondering, do you give, anyone that's in that position, do you give the pen to the male or the female first?
Female.
Female? What I suggest is don't give it to either of them. And when you put the pen down, don't set it like this. Set it at an angle. Just like that. Let them reach forward and take the pen. That way they are choosing, and also the person that is the decision maker that you want to choose will choose. So you won't offend the husband, you won't offend the wife. You just put it in front of them, and they will engage you instead of being like...
Or use 2 pens.
Yeah, 2 pens.
Nice pen you got there.
I like it too.
Like in my family, I'd be the one to grab the pen. But when I sold real estate, it was almost always the woman would reach over and grab that pen and then start the process.
Yeah, a lot of times I run into that. I usually do the 2-pen thing, but that's the process that I go through with applications and things like that. There's multiple documents, so it's more or less kind of like a process.
Yeah, revolving.
Getting the papers through. So I don't run into that too often, but I've read about things like that. You're not sure who the decision maker is, and you don't want to have to call that situation out. Let them figure it out between the two of them.
I do have a question, curious reason for putting the pen at an angle as opposed to...
I have to admit, I don't know exactly why you put it at an angle. I've tried to find out, and I don't know why. I can tell you, I can't remember her name. It was Lisa... I'm losing it. I have a picture of her on my phone, but she's a body language sales trainer for Zig Ziglar and for his foundation. And I actually attended a training with her where she covered that for me, but I never actually found out why you put the pen that
Because
way.
it's not sterile. It's you're open. It's just like open body.
Oh, that makes sense. It's in motion. It's not just...
So you're not closing it off. It kind of
yeah, that
Because
makes sense.
everything else is straight, and so now you just...
And because most people are going to have to reach over at an angle to get it also, so that might be...
Yeah, I like those answers. I think those are all great answers, honestly.
And see, where I get most of the thing about watching body language is I used to teach people to train their dogs for like 20 years.
Yeah, there you
so
go.
So I had to, if you're just not getting it or you can't teach your dog something, I go off of that aspect.
Sue just needs to open her box.
I
She's a bit.
hate to say
You got 1,000 choices.
and Mimi's going to vouch for me on this one. We go to a lot of the women's groups and stuff. So I try and get there early or at least on time. And that's the first thing I do is I find the open table in the corner. And I peel open my boxes and I just leave them there. And then it's like, okay, you come to me. Because I get so involved in talking to people, but Mimi, like I said, Mimi will vouch. And I have more people come up and say, "Oh, I have one of Sue's pens. I want to introduce you to Sue." So they'll bring whoever they want to introduce me to, and I meet more people that way just by setting those boxes up, and I don't say a word. It's like, come check it out.
Yeah, that's something to do too. And it's coming time to wrap this up. I will throw out one last little thing that if you're doing speaking engagements and things where you're selling from the podium or the front, they should have to go buy your products when they leave. And by go by, I mean they must physically pass by your products stationed at the door for them to get away. It's a real big thing when you're doing any type of presentation. Make them have to get by your products and services on the way out the door. And that being said, that does conclude the official time that we had spent on communication, sales, and persuasion. If there are those of you that would like to hang out longer, talk more about things I didn't cover, I'll be able to be here at least for 15 minutes more. But I thank all of you for attending, and I'm Michael Black, AfroMarketing, and thank you so much for coming.